Hi, this is John McGill, your instructor for operating systems at Iowa Western Community College. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 7, which is managing files. So it's a quick chapter, and we're going to talk about manipulating files and manipulating directories. So we kind of got to start last time with being in the terminal window and managing those things. So we're going to go a little bit step further and look at some of the manipulating files. Some of the easy things to do with files is to create files, and we've talked about this before, how we can touch a file, and we can touch multiple files all at the same time. So I'm going to create 3 files that are touch file 1, 2, and 3. If I do ls, I can see that I have file 1, 2, and 3 created. If I do ll, I can see that those files are created at 8:44. If I touch those files again, notice that the files, well, it didn't wait long enough. So when you touch them again and they're already created, it just updates the system date, and there it's 8:45. So you can see how you can change that. You can also copy files, and with copy files we can use the cp command, and the first option is the source file. So let's say it's file 1, and the destination folder, if it's a file or pathway, we can say file 10. And if we look at that, we have a file 1 and we have a file 10, so we've copied it. We can copy that into other directories. So for example, I can put that into my desktop by doing cp file, I'll copy file 10 to the desktop, and I'll call it file. If I don't give a file name, it will copy the actual name, or I can change the name. Also, if I keep that slash in there, if the folder desktop is not there, it will give me an error. So sometimes that's a good thing to check to make sure that the directory is there that you want it to be in. So we'll see if it's actually there. If I move this out of the way, I should see file 10 is there. We can have other options. We can do recursive if we want to do a full folder. Let me back up and let's jump ahead just for a little bit, because we can create a folder with a make directory, make dir command, and we'll make a directory called test1. If we look at it, we can see that test1 is now a directory, and we could copy our files in there. Remember from last time, we can copy, we can use wildcard characters, which is called globbing. So we can do file 1, 2, and 3 to the test1 directory, making sure we put a slash after that, and we'll keep those file names the same. And now if we do an ls of test1, we can see that we have file 1, 2, and 3. So we can copy all those again. If we do a cp test1, we can copy test1, but we want to make sure that this is recursive. So we copy everything into test2. Now if we do an ls, we can see that we have test1 and test2. And if I do an ls of test2, I can see this. So one of the best things you can do is to try these commands out, see what happens as you copy and move things around. So the more you try these things, the easier that you understand how they work. So please try these out by doing the lab and or doing them on your own as well. So once again, the copy is you copy the original to the new. If you have a pathway of where you want to go, you can put the path. And if you can copy the original text to a new file, it will create the new name for that file. We can also move files. I think I mentioned last time, by keeping that same file into the same folder, it will rename the file. So for example, if I move file 1 and move it into the same folder, it will be, I'll call it new file 1. And if I do an ls, we can see that I don't have file 1 anymore, but I have a new file. If I take that new file, if I move that new file, and I can put it into test1 with a new name, or I can keep the same name. Let's see if we just keep the same name with that slash after it. If I ls test1, I can see that a new file is in that new folder, and it's no longer in my home directory. So we can move things around. The other thing that you may want to do is you can create links. This is often useful if you want to take a shortcut that goes from one place to another, or you can create what is called hard links, where the link is actually pointing to the same location on the hard drive itself, or if you do a soft link, it is a shortcut file, much like you're familiar with in Windows, where it's a file that's actually pointing to somewhere else. So for example, if I have file 10 there, I can create a link with ln, and -s creates a soft link that the original file 10, will also be called file 10. If I look at this, I can see that file 10 is there, but if someone puts in what's in file 10 using the spelled out 10, it actually goes to file 10. So there are times when it's important to have different file names that are pointing to the same thing. And once again, these links don't have to be in the same directory. They can redirect somewhere else. So if you have multiple files, rather than creating them in separate folders, you can do links that will do it for you. As I said, we can delete files, and we can use wildcards, which is globbing. Now, the one thing I didn't talk about is bracketed values. So let's go back and look at bracketed values. It's how we can have options. For example, if I'm going to touch a couple files here, book and bake, book and buck. Okay, so I can do an ls for both of those and look for B and the value is a square bracket of either O or A. Okay, let me start over here and make this a little more clear. So let me do an ls. We can use globbing with looking for everything that starts with a B. So the asterisk is anything in any number of characters. If I do the square brackets, I can look for ls anything that starts with a B, and the next character could be an O or a U. The next character could be a O or a C, and the last character is a K. And so I can do a substitution so it only looks for those things. I get book or buck. Of course, if I only do something else here, put in a T, for example, it will only give me book. So I can use the square brackets to search for specific items. For example, let's look at that one more time. If I see that I have file 2 and 3 here, I can do an ls for file with a square bracket, and it could be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So I know I may have files like that, and it shows me file 2 and 3. So we can use that square bracket for globbing. Now, one of the other important things to understand, especially in Linux, is that everything is case sensitive. So if we have a file that's called a new file, that is completely different than a file that's capital A new file. So capitalization makes sense, and it is different. So those are two different files. We can create directories, as I said, and we made that one directory. We can create a path and create parent directories. If we just try to create a directory and the parent directory is not created, for example, if I do a make directory that is McGill / John, and that can't do it because the directory McGill isn't there. But if I do -p in here as an option, it will create that parent for me. And now when I do ls, we see that I have a directory called McGill. And if I ls McGill, I have a directory John. So we can make a directory that way and create parents for that. We can remove directories, but once again, the removed directory has to be an empty directory. So as long as I could remove the directory rmdir /McGill /John, because I don't have anything in it, and so I can, if I ls McGill, excuse me, I can see that the John folder is gone. But if I try to remake that directory, let me make the directory again. If I try to remove McGill, I can't do it because it's not empty. Now I can do rm-r McGill, and it will recursively go down through and delete everything. And now if I look at that, do it with ls, I no longer have McGill. I don't have the John folder either. This is a very dangerous command, and it's something that you want to be very careful to use. And if anyone tells you to use that, make sure that they're on the up and up. So we've used touch, we've copied trees, we've used move, we've created symbolic links, so we've done a lot of things in this chapter, and I hope you learn and do some more things. There is a new lab, NetLab 7, and we'll see you on the other side for the next chapter.